right, technically live. Okay. Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the brand new show Around the Pit. This is episode 2, season 1. I don't know why I say seasons. We'll pretend that there's seasons between TIs. But this is going to be a show that I fell in love with. The concept, it's popular on ESPN, the idea of just talking about esports and giving out points. And the way that this is going to work, guys, is there are buzzers you're going to hear. Every topic, it's 8 to 11 minutes. And at 8 minutes, you're going to hear a buzzer that sounds a little bit like this. After that, the guys get no more than 3 minutes to summarize their thoughts, at which point I can stop them whenever I feel like it with my own personal buzzer that sounds a little something like this. Once that goes off, it takes God mode, the talking stops, we move on to the next topic. You may notice some point spreads all at 0 above the names of the guys on the show, and that means I get to assign points throughout the episode. If they make a good point, if they speak their mind strongly, and even if it's a dumb comment, but they're really passionate about the way they present that, they may gain a point. And don't worry, as we all learned from watching Gerg last week, I'm not afraid to take them away either. So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to kick this thing off right away. Let me do some introductions first. We'll start on the far side of the screen with a man who you might not know. He's very involved with the Dota scene. He's often behind the scenes. His name is, I believe you say it's Sovin Kim. Is that correct, Skim?
Yeah, that is correct.
So we'll call you Skim because that's what you like to go by. At Skim Gaming is where you can find him. He does interviews. He's worked for Dota Blast. He's worked for Gozu. He works independently. He writes for High Ground. The guy is involved. He knows the ins and outs of the scene, and I'm glad to have you on the show. How are you doing tonight?
Very good. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
You look super happy.
He looks so excited.
It's 5 a.m. Give me a break.
Why did you agree to do this show at 5 a.m.?
I may or may not have miscalculated the times.
I love it. Well, we got you now, so you're stuck here. In the middle is David Gorman, a man who probably needs no introduction. He's on the camera as well as behind one of the biggest studios in Dota. That is better known to you as LD. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am wonderful. I enjoyed the Ritsu show earlier. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Now, keep in mind that last week, David Gorman, Mr. LD himself, won out in a field against Nahaz and Gerg, or Greg, or what is hip, or whatever the heck you want to call him, as he beat them in the last episode and got the free invite to come back for this one. So the winner of the show, the highest point total, does get the Aegis and an invite to return. You don't have to, but you're always welcome back if you do win that Aegis. The last man on the list is someone that you might know, Kyle Friedman, made his name in Han, moved over to Dota, showed up at TI5 and stomped around, showing everybody that Complexity wasn't somebody to brush off lightly. You guys had some really good performances, especially in the qualifiers. Now, I heard that you made a big change and you're no longer Swindle Melons. What's going on with that?
I don't know. It's not anything special. It's just too long of a name. Everyone at TI is famous enough to sign autographs, and after just 14 characters, I was watching S4. He had this massive line, and of course, it's just boom, you're done. Move on, next guy. So I'm trying to progress.
All right. So the impetus for change, all these so often fame and the need to sort of have a less to side. But we like that. Swindles is what he'll go by now, so that's what we've got him listed on. Make sure you check him out over on Twitter. That said, let's get this show on the road. We've got just under an hour to talk about a couple of different topics, and they run the gambit. Now, the one that folks voted for to get this thing kicked off, guys, and we have a whole lot to go over, but they wanted to talk about the Reborn rollout. Now, on my topic list, I had two separate portions of Reborn. I had the Reborn rollout, do you like the way it happened? And then I also had dire stacking and breaking the game. And I think we're going to put these together. So let's talk, guys, and there's no order. Talk whenever you want. There are no rules other than allow the buzzer to do its job. But what do you think about the state of the Reborn rollout? Was it done correctly? And how do game-breaking bugs like the dire stacking affect the pro scene?
I think they dealt with it pretty quickly, so it wasn't a huge deal. I don't even believe it delayed anything by more than an hour or two. I think what sucks the most about Reborn is the lobbies are terrible. You can't change the server in Reborn. You have to rehost the lobby, which makes no sense whatsoever.
They're a goddamn shit show. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, in order to find a lobby, you have to select the right region. Like, if you ever filter by mode, it remembers your filter. And then, so if you AP remake, you've got to remember to change the filter. You have to put in the password again every time you join, which is really fucking annoying when you're casting. You want to run, get a drink,
Right.
go to the bathroom. The lobbies are just
Yeah, and then you've got like a whole half of the screen that's just not even used, and the chat's in this little corner that's also being used for your private messages. So you can't have it just makes no sense to me. It's like
and dude, and the players an admin will be like, hey, do you want first pick, or do you want choice of pick or side? Like, the players don't see it because it's fucking tiny in the corner. But the admin's like, why aren't you responding? It's like, well, I just noticed this little message.
yeah.
So it sounds like they responded quickly on game-breaking bugs, but on things about comfort, it's just nothing's changed. Now, is that going to be an easy fix? I mean, fixing a lobby, I don't know much about programming, but that seems like a pretty big task.
Well, supposedly the fact that it is on Source 2 should make it easier. Like, when they initially announced it, they were like, hey, with this new engine, we can implement fixes much sooner than we ever could before. And I mean, we saw it already, right? They were able to. I mean, it's a small fix or it's a small change to the UI, but still, it came out pretty quickly. So I have to assume that it is easier to fix than it used to be.
Okay. Is there anything else about Reborn that you guys think could have been done better, or was actually done really well in terms of this rollout? Because I know myself, I was caught off guard. They said it's coming out soon, and then it was like 2 days later. Here's Reborn. As folks, I'm sure Swindle, you've been playing in this. LD, you've been casting in this. Would you call it a smooth rollout, or do you think that this was on par with, I don't know, Sim City, the last one's release?
Okay, let's not get fucking crazy here, dude. We don't need to compare the Reborn rollout to Sim City. That was a goddamn shit show. But I mean, I think inevitably with this kind of it's not like they just patched the game. They literally ported the entire thing to a completely new engine. Like the code behind the architecture is totally different. So I'm not surprised there are issues, but it's just like there are issues and they're frustrating. But I'm sure they would have, no matter what they did, they would have had similar issues.
There is no way to watch replays of any TI, including TI5, other than you cannot watch Source 1 replays on Source 2. Which is unbelievable to me, because I'm
sure they would have, no matter what they did.
I want to watch replays from TI, but you can't. It's not possible to watch them anymore. There's not even a ticket. It makes no sense to me.
How big of a problem is that?
It's not massive, but it's just.
Wait, can you even boot up? You can't even boot up the Dota 1 client, or Source 1 client anymore, right?
No, I'm sure there might be a way. I'm just kind of computer illiterate. I just sort of like to make things simple for myself. I'm sure if you screwed around with the console enough, you could probably find a way to do it. But it removed all of these games and replays they're just lost now. Like, what if you want
the fact that Cyborg Matt might be able to watch a replay doesn't count. Players shouldn't have to be computer detectives to figure out how to watch a game. I don't find that a valid excuse. So yeah, I mean, I imagine it's only a valuable fix. They've been pretty responsive in general over the past year, but it's still frustrating. Whether it's that or whether it's just the lobbies being hard to work with. There's also fundamental changes to the map apparently, where there was a spot the Radiant pathing's different. The Radiant Ancients. There's a spot that gets seen. There's this little nook close to the tower that sticks out. When you're walking past the tree line, there's that little space in the trees, and you can actually see it from the hill ward, which you never used to be able to in Source 1. And I just I was casting today and I noticed, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So there's those things are probably going to happen when the entire map is, I'm sure it's coded differently and designed differently. It also feels like heroes are a little bit smaller. I was reading some people were saying it's more like Dota 1 was in terms of the heroes relative to the map size.
Hitboxes were changed on certain heroes, and in addition, certain ward spots that used to block camps either no longer do, or you have to move the ward. I don't ward, so I'm just echoing the complaints of my support players, but it's just it's just frustrating. And the worst thing is because they're going to hit us with a patch, and it'll have more issues, and it'll fundamentally change the whole game, and it's just there's just no time, and it wasn't. I just don't see why they needed to rush the Reborn client. I assume it's because they didn't want the patch and Reborn to be on the same date, but it's just not ready.
The crazy thing is
not ready.
It's normally you'd have every year up until now you'd have 2 months where nothing's really happening. Like some tournaments start their qualifiers. Instead, it's like ESL's qualifiers are done in like 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, but you've got the MLG qualifiers, which I don't think they've started yet, or if they have, they're relatively early. They're going to be like very quick 2-week affair. Same for Nanyang. So like, if there's a bug for a week, like people are just fucked.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the major qualifiers happen, like
it's not even about like I was sincerely hoping that there'd be a North American team that could secure an invite to the major outside of EG, because I see that Europe's probably going to get 4, maybe 5, and I feel like America could earn 2. And it's all of that consideration. You have 3 events really. There's Nanyang, MLG, ESL qualifiers, and then actual ESL. And then you're either invited to the major, or you're playing the qualifier. And it's not like, as you said in the past, like this month didn't matter, next month didn't matter. Tier 1 teams just sort of took a vacation until December, but it's not.
I mean, Newbie literally fucked off to play like a phone MOBA for like 4 months. Also kept on winning events for a while, but that's another story.
So, do you think that this, the fact that they push this out now in the middle of qualifiers without a ton of fanfare or preparation to the teams, shows that maybe the other tournaments aren't mattering to them as much as the majors? They wanted the 2 months to get ready for majors and get the bugs out, and everyone else be damned?
It's impossible to really like look out for other tournaments, right? Because no matter what, there's always going to be another tournament that you're going to fuck over with, excuse my language, but that you're going to screw over with this Reborn client. So they have to do it at some point. Might as well do it as soon as possible, right?
Well, it's better they fuck over the third-party events than the majors. So I don't. And there's no choice because there's no downtime. There's 4 majors a year, including TI, right? So.
You don't think I'm complaining. There are too many events. I'm not. I am thrilled. There is so much.
That was gaming paradise, dude.
Oh, it's great, dude. I'm so psyched.
Cool event, guys.
Yeah, we're working. Sorry.
I'll say Slovenia was beautiful, huh?
Oh, it was great. The weather was fantastic. Girls everywhere. Man, just lovely, lovely place. I'm really hoping, we couldn't play Nanyang because we were in Slovenia. So we're trying to get them to invite us to the European qualifiers, which would be hilarious, in my opinion. And we'd have so much fun playing that. It would just be the greatest. I think winning that would be more enjoyable than, actually winning a LAN and getting, real money.
It's not unheard of. There are other teams, I won't say any names, C9, that have played outside of their typical region. So you never really know. They might let you go for that. As this round comes to a close, any other thoughts on the Reborn rollout, gentlemen?
Custom games are amazing.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where like everyone will bitch about it for the next couple of months. Maybe it will affect a few teams with the fall major, but come 6 months from now, a year from now, people will say, "Thank fucking God we have Reborn. Dota 2 is the shit." They'll wave their dicks at League of Legends, which is stupid, but I think people will appreciate it in the long run. So.
Oh man,
let's not get overly butthurt about it.
I just got a mental image of my brother-in-law being very offended as I wave my dick at him, talking about how much better my game is than his. So thank you for that mental image, LD. I appreciate it. But that is all the time that we have for this topic. So without further ado, we'll roll over to the next one. Now, as we get that started, boys and girls, do keep in mind that there is one other simple rule for this game, and it is this. If at any point during the show, one of our guests wants to go on a soapbox, you guys can demand your soapbox, and you get 45 seconds of uninterrupted talk time to complain about whatever the topic is that we're on. So if you feel strongly that you didn't get your word in, if you feel strongly that you need to be heard, call for the soapbox. LD did it last week, and it was pretty phenomenal and a lot of fun to hear him chat about. Feel free to call that anytime during the show. So next topic up, the one that I think a lot of folks are talking about, and I'm curious just to get your opinions. It may be a short discussion, it may be a long one, but that is this. It's been on the docket for a long time. A certain sponsor has been talking to a lot of teams over the last year and have finally settled into purchasing a Dota 2 team, and that is a website that probably a lot of you are familiar with, and that is YouPorn. How do you feel about Porn buying a team in Dota 2? Good, bad, doesn't really matter.
Inevitable. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, they're targeted.
Porn is big business. So eventually, they're going to find a way to get involved. Like, sure, it may cause problems for events. It may cause problems for other organizations or for the image of the scene. But good luck. How do you keep them out? Valve doesn't want to get involved. Valve's not going to set rules. So
fair. So how do you keep them out? Do you think that they need to be kept out, and do you think that?
No, I'm saying even if you think they need to be, it's not going to be like short of given that that ultimately Valve is an American company, porn is generally legal in the U.S. to watch to distribute.
I don't know. You call them.
Restrictions.
I don't even think it matters. You call them Team YP, like YP. I mean, who cares? It's every legitimate sport with millions of dollars invested in it inevitably will have beer, cigarettes.
Even
there's plenty of vices that gambling is everywhere. I mean, if you think about esports, it's the slope. We're getting big enough to the point where now the people that will throw the most money at the scene to plaster their logos everywhere are going to be peddling some sort of vice. We are at gambling now. We're gonna move to porn, and then eventually probably I don't know, Tito's vodka.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I've seen at least it's either one of the major broadcast networks or the NFL itself is sponsored by DraftKings, which is a fantasy drafting site. So their logo is on every NFL broadcast. It's either from one network or all the broadcasts. I'm not sure, but and then I see people get so fucking upset about betting and donuts. Is anyone mad at the NFL about this? Parents are responsible for raising their kids.
LD, think of
people are responsible for spending their own money properly. Let's stop making fucking excuses for people who can't control themselves. Jesus Christ, man.
He said while swimming in money from Alpha Draft or Vulcan. I'm just saying. No, but he's right though, isn't he? It is completely normal in football broadcasts to have ads in between for any sort of betting company, and nobody bats an eye, but suddenly it's an esport and everybody's like, oh no, think of the children.
So I mean that's fair. We're talking about betting, think of the children. We all saw the memes during Summit. Oh, it was so much fun. But is porn different? Because isn't there an aspect of two things? And I bring this up to you. A, we already have enough trouble saying my nuts during casts, right? Whenever we cover Alliance, it's my nuts, and the giggles run rampant. Now we have to talk about Team YP. Is that a problem for casters?
The team's terrible. No one is ever going to be casting them ever.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Here's the ultimate argument though. This issue has been talked about before, a year ago, because they already picked up a team a year ago. Have you ever heard of that team? After they picked them up? I actually had to look up who was playing in the team, because it's some Spanish team with Lolquab. I think he was the most popular guy in the team. But them being involved in esports right now is still irrelevant unless they're actually serious about it and not just trying to be hype about it. This is just a PR stunt where they're just going to be oh yeah, we have this esport team. We're super involved. We have a Twitter account now as well, and we have
a Twitter account.
A hot chick with a Pikachu top, whatever.
Yeah,
this is gonna fade out in 3 weeks.
It's just a again. It's getting us to talk about it. They've won. It gave some terrible Dota team $500 a month to give them and some T-shirts, so that this whole new demographic, which is pretty close to the one I would assume they're targeting, 16 to 24-year-old single men who spend all their days on the computer, and it gets hundreds of thousands of people to bullshit about something that costs.
It's, by the way, the same demographic that this show appeals to.
Yeah.
As well as most other tournaments.
And that's it, though. I mean, well, let's be honest. A lot of the viewers are probably watching YouPorn on a regular basis or something close to it.
During this broadcast on their second monitor, I would guarantee
there is some sick fuck out there jerking off right now while the stream's on his other monitor. Now, there's a dude out there doing that.
Dude,
are you enjoying yourself right now, sir? Yeah, we're all watching.
It's hard to edge yourself if you don't have something that's not sexual at the same time.
Fair. Now, here's my question, though. They have, and we can say this, the first team that they sponsored was a lot smaller than the current players on their current team, correct? So if they continue this upward trend, what if they buy a TI team? And what if, next thing you know, YouPorn is going to TI? Is that somewhere that the foot gets put down? Because the NFL, FIFA, they don't allow porn advertisements on their tournaments. Would Valve even give a shit?
Well, technically, again, they're just called Team YP, right? They have never really officially branded themselves as Team YouPorn, nor do they have a logo where,
Okay, here's where I think Valve definitely wouldn't give a shit. They let teams that are sponsored by G2A playing their bets with the logo plastered over their arms. And G2A, the argument goes, is directly stealing money from Valve. So Valve's going to give a shit about anything. They're a business, and they're a very smart business. They're going to give a shit about the sponsor category that is stealing money from them. Before they give a shit about porn on a morality basis.
Quick real world example. This random champagne company just messaged Beef about sending us free stuff because they were into esports. So they sent us a bunch of these. But what I found is just the most hilarious thing were these pennies / jerseys. Black Bottle Boys.
Nice.
With rose on the back.
Rose.
So this is Rose, dude.
Sorry, Rose.
God.
But that's just an example. So we're like not, we're nobody, but they just random company. They'll just send you free stuff.
Oh, right.
It doesn't matter. Like this is.
So you picked up a point for showing
this?
You picked up a point for showing us a shirt that implies that you're willing to show nipples, and then
how much did they
lost
pay
a point
you
for
for
mispronouncing
that
rosé.
Yeah,
right?
how much did you pay for this?
They didn't pay us. They sent us a box of it, and they sent us like 8 bottles of rosé, and then
I think you just got swindled.
Yep.
Possibly.
Oh my god.
Wah. And I'm just gonna go ahead and.
It's just an example. So that's like what YP is doing. It's like it doesn't matter. It's worthless. Like $3,000 a month or a box of champagne. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything more. This doesn't mean that Valve is gonna suddenly be like popping bottles when the TI Victors come out at TI 6. Like it's just free, easy marketing.
Fair enough.
I just want to use an example from like football or soccer in Germany. There's this football team called RB Leipzig, and they're sponsored by Red Bull, but they're not allowed to use Red Bull as a title sponsor. So they just call themselves RB, and they have the shittiest translation for it, but it's just RB Leipzig. So they can technically still have them as a sponsor without violating any rules. And I think the same sort of logic applies here, right? They can just brand themselves as YP. They have like just the same font as the YouPorn logo, but they technically are not Team YouPorn in that sense, right?
Fair enough.
So kind of they're not really violating any rules.
Let's move on. This topic bores the fuck out of me. I'm not.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, we're gonna move on as time is coming to an end anyway. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a point away from LD because I'm the host. God damn it.
Well, to be fair, he gave this topic more time.
He did. It actually went a lot longer than I expected it to. So we'll stop that. Let's move on to a topic that I think interests some folks on the vote the last 2 weeks, and it's something that I do want to talk about, and it is this. We have entered a very interesting area in esports. If you look at traditional sports, players are not readily accessible at all times to the fans. However, in esports, between Twitter accounts, Twitch streams, Ask FMs, and God knows what other systems, Instagrams, and other social network stuff that I'm too old for to even understand, players are instantly accessible in a lot of different ways. Do you think that this accessibility to players is good or bad for the esports scene?
Isn't this part of the attraction of esport? The fact that you can be so close to the sort of like celebrities or stars that you kind of look up to. This is why YouTube, for example, is so big, right? Because all these vloggers, all those YouTubers, you see them, you feel really close to them because they're so connected to you. And I feel like this is the same sort of like attraction to esport. The fact that it feels like I know, for example, Loda better than I know like Messi, for example, just because I don't know, just following Messi's Facebook doesn't really give me too much. But whereas Loda, I see a lot of interviews from him, Twitter, I see, I don't know, Facebook, whatever, his streams, whatever. So I think that's part of the attraction, and I think that's a good kind of thing for esport.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's not really that healthy or sustainable though. Like the level of it. Interaction that Dota players and personalities have with their fans is like extremely fucking draining, especially when you first start out and you're kind of blown away by like, oh, suddenly like I've been discovered, or I'm winning games and I become like like Britsu today is a great day, and if he keeps it up, all of a sudden he's gonna have like 20,000 Twitter followers. He's gonna tweet a bunch of stupid shit, quite possibly, if history is our guide, and then all of a sudden there's gonna be angry Reddit threads about some stupid shit he said, and it gets to the point where it's just like some people can brush it off for a while, but in the long term, the vast majority of people, it gets under their skin. They start lashing out. They say shit they shouldn't. It gets them in trouble.
I totally disagree.
No,
the average pro player gives a collective just zero fucks about what they read on Reddit. The shit does not
I
matter.
completely disagree.
Matter.
They're all
Look,
fucking beans, dude.
I have been doing this shit for like 5 years, man. I have gone. There's been so much drama and bullshit in the esports career I've had thus far. It can't bother you. Anybody who's been doing this for a couple of years, they've already gone through that phase, and you either quit and do something else or you just deal with it. But I really don't think the average player gives a shit about what people are memeing in Twitch chat. I just strongly disagree.
So beyond just how they feel about Twitch chat memes and things like that, do you think that this also calls into question, we can talk about blogs and vlogs and all these different things, right? I've talked to Envy on the show. You guys have met him. He's released all kinds of vlogs that he said, I regret the way that I released that initially. We talked to Bulbo last week, and he talked about the fact that he regrets posting his blog on Liquidpedia about the Liquid meltdown a while back ago. If you go to traditional sports, players have PR guys, they have agents, they have people who are in charge of making sure you don't stick your foot in your mouth, and that's for typical regular journalism interviews. That's not Ask FMs and stuff like that. So how do people so connected to the fans keep their feet out of their mouth? Is it possible?
Can I that's actually I think we're past the point where you have more of that organic, authentic communication with personalities. Now that there's a much larger soapbox for all of us to stand on, people are realizing, your online fingerprint will never disappear. Your YouTube videos, your tweets, your posts, they're always going to be there forever.
Some of us more than others.
Yeah, so trust me. I'm more than aware of what's out there. You can't, and it's gotten to the point where you'll see, no one wants to, have their voice chat in a match given to the public. That'll never happen again at any event. No one is going to really answer questions because, it's almost like the Reddit and Twitch hive mind see gamers as being unable to be socially functioning human beings. So anything that sort of tries that you say about yourself that dispels the narrative that you might be anything more than a introverted wallflower who's afraid of handshakes, people will just jump on you. They'll jump on you whether you're doing something awesome or doing something truly embarrassing. So instead you just tweet out bullshit like good game. I get shit because I don't type GG after a game. Who gives a fuck? At TI the game ends, you go shake hands. Who cares if you type GG? But that's the sort of thing that can get thousands of comments and likes and shit, and it's just so not meaningful or important at all, which goes back to the original point, which is most players just don't give a shit.
Yeah, you're right for now, but the thing is, if esports continues to grow and it becomes the point where people actually recognize you on a reasonably regular basis when you walk around, then you're going to give a shit because not all those people are nice, first of all. Secondly, if there are regular live events, there will be hometown fans who are assholes to your face, who throw things at you, who yell at you. That happens in real sports every day of the week. And at that point, I think you would completely have a turn of face as far as, oh yeah, I don't care. They'll threaten your family. They'll call you racial slurs. They'll, start harassing you. That shit already happens a little bit in Dota. That shit happens a lot more when the game grows and continues to get better. So
I
think it hasn't reached the tipping point yet.
There was so much negativity on the internet about me and my team leading up to TI. I don't think one person said anything negative. I had a really funny interaction with this idiot who had the EG logo shaved into the side of his head. And I just I ribbed him about it for a minute, and we were laughing, having a good time. And he's just what the hell are you doing, you idiot? They're going to lose. But unfortunately, he was right and I was wrong. So it just doesn't. I don't know.
That's a harmless interaction. That's just part of being a person who's going to have fans. That's different from being overly accessible, which is what we're talking about. When your personal life all of a sudden becomes a fodder for a Reddit thread. It's one thing to oh yeah, you suck at Dota. That's fine. That's your job, right? So you can handle that. But if they start coming after your family, your friends, things that you did when you were a kid, fuck ups you had at school. Look at the situation with Korok, dude. Remember that shit that happened a couple months ago and people still make jokes on Twitch chat? Do you think Korok doesn't give a shit about that? No, Korok definitely doesn't like that. Sure, maybe he tries not to affect him. That's the type of thing that happens when players or personalities are.
To be, it's not like there wasn't substance behind why that would be important. It's like if I was at a LAN event and I shit my pants on camera, that'd probably get a lot of traction. I wouldn't enjoy that. That would probably make me feel bad. But that can be easily prevented by not shitting your pants. It's
more like someone heard what sounded like it could have been shitting his pants, or maybe he farted, and everyone just said, "Oh, he shit his pants! Look at him, the pants shitter!" Like,
right. Well, and I think the issue
where there is smoke, there is fire.
Well, the consideration is this: if an NFL player or a soccer player messes up and people start talking smack about them, in order for them to respond to that, they have to call a press conference. They have to go through their people. It's a process and takes time. Dota players get on the internet and are live to all of their fans within 10 minutes with whatever they feel like saying. Is that a problem? Let me ask you this. Do we need to hire PR specialists for players, especially the bigger names that everyone knows?
I mean, they should hire them.
Good luck getting them to listen.
Yeah.
Fair.
I mean, I think the bigger issue, or not the bigger issue, but I think in general, pro players early on just need some sort of like guidance. I mean, for a lot of people, like LD said early on, like, a lot of people or a lot of pro players are just being exposed suddenly to all this sort of like hype and all this media. So a lot of people just maybe need a little bit of guidance. I don't think PR managers are really the kind of solution, just because you kind of restrict the person to be like. Can you imagine putting like a PR agent in front of PPD and he has to like sign off every tweet that he wants to send out?
You're misunderstanding what the role of a PR agent is. The goal isn't to just make you this boring personality. The idea is to help you grow your brand. So if you take a certain, like a Envy who has a persona, if I were his PR agent, I wouldn't be telling him to, stop co-casting and just delete his Twitter. I would say he should honestly make his own line of like waifu body pillows, except with Envy in like a seductive pose in a bikini. That shit would blow the fuck up. Yeah, like that would be, I guarantee you there'd be some idiots who would buy it. Like that's what a PR agent does. They help you expand and grow with whatever your shtick is. Like there's so many. A PR agent is not supposed to be your mom or your dad. He's supposed to help you grow.
All right, so we're gonna end that topic on the idea of a giant body pillow that I think a lot more folks would buy than you give them credit for. And I think that's the funny part of that. Now, let's move on. We'll get into something a little more game-based, and I'm curious what you guys think about this. This was brought up in Twitch chat earlier in the show, and folks said hero rollouts. Let's talk about those briefly. Should more heroes be added after Arc Warden and Pit Lord? Or is this enough? And if it isn't, how often should we see hero rollouts in terms of the competitive game?
Fuck yes, there should be more heroes. How's that even a question? Like, of course there should be more heroes. It shouldn't be like Riot, where they just release like a slightly different version of an existing hero that has like, so they can make more money. But like Dota has a long, steady history of new heroes, and actually I don't think there's been one for like a year and a half because Ice Frog's been focused on Dota 2. But I mean that's just, of course there should be more. They just shouldn't be shitty, lazy copy pasta heroes.
Yep, Han did that when their new method of monetization was early access. They would make a new hero and sell you the ability to play it like 2 weeks early, and I think they churned them out like, what was it, once a month? I'm gonna go with once a month. So, and the quality was just horrendous. And they would always be broken at the start because people would pay to play the OP hero, then they'd nerf it when it was mass released, and that's just not something I'd ever want to see. I don't think you need one every 6 months is potentially even a little fast. I think 1 a year, 2 a year max.
I think two years. I think 2 years.
2 a year.
Okay.
But the cool thing about Dota is though that even if there's no new hero introduced or released or even like implemented in the captain's mode, it's still so diverse. Like with every balance patch, like honestly, I haven't even seen an Earth Spirit in like 2 years or something. Ever since
because he's not in captain's.
Unless you watch a Kalo guy stream.
Even in pubs, there's not too many Earth Spirits, right? So I feel like even.
But so the thing with Pub Dota now is it's so easy to watch the pro scene that it has a really big effect on pubs. Like back in Dota 1, like most people didn't watch Pro Dota, weren't aware it existed. So there wasn't a whole lot of crossover. But now everybody like pretty much who played Dota 2 watched TI2 and saw Dead